they cannot stop breathing. That's why people can't die from marijuana. You can overdose, you can have a horrible experience with too much concentration, but you cannot die, and that's the reason why. So some of the side effects are merely bothersome, such as red eyes, cotton mouth, which is a dry mouth, or maybe excessive appetites, also known as munchies. Some side effects can be interruptive, like being so relaxed that motor skills are slowed, short-term memory can be affected, and some strains may cause paranoid feelings in some people. On the other hand, one of the most common side effects to cannabis is that it makes most people feel better and be happier. So who wants those side effects? Okay, so though we have not had the right to test this medicine openly in the US for 60 years, we do have clinical data. In fact, this may surprise you to learn, but in Israel, they use cannabis in the hospitals and the nursing homes right on site. And in fact, some of these documentaries that are listed on that reference sheet, you'll be able to see patients in the hospitals and in the nursing homes in Israel vaporizing cannabis as part of their hospitalization treatment. So, unfortunately for the US, the research performed and the data that has been accumulating in Israel doesn't count to our AMA or our FDA because it was done in another country. I'm not kidding. And here's the part that makes no sense, as if any of this made sense. Most of these studies done in other countries, especially the Israeli studies, have been funded by US government agencies such as NIDA, National Institute for Drug Abuse, and NIH, which is the National Institute of Health. So we funded the studies, but we can't use the findings. They don't count. Does that bother you? It bothers me. The good news from all of this is that the science and research that has been done has been very well communicated between the scientists and the doctors worldwide. And there's a lot of information. As somebody else had mentioned earlier, there's more research done on this plant than almost anything on Earth. So when you go to your doctor and the doctor says, well, there's no clinical trials to prove it, don't listen to them because they don't know what they're talking about, seriously. There is so much research on this plant. Yeah.
No, it's true. There's too much research. Like,
20,000 studies in the last 10 years. That's a lot of research.
wow.
So, okay, one of the things we now know is that in all mammalian bodies, which is humans and animals, we have a neurotransmitter receptor system called the endocannabinoid system, the ECS for short. The system is responsible for maintaining and regulating the body's balance, stabilization, and homeostasis. It regulates all of our body systems, and yet it is not even discussed in 87% of medical colleges today. And the other 13% don't go into it. They maybe mention it, but it's not a subject of study. And it regulates our whole body. This is so serious that they aren't studying this. It's a crime. Anyway, so this system, the ECS in our body, has uniquely evolved over the course of human development to receive the chemical compounds natural to cannabis. The ECS is a network of neurotransmitters overlaid on the central nervous system and on the peripheral nervous system. The molecular compounds in cannabis, called cannabinoids, are the perfect medicine for our human bodies, designed to work with the ECS like a lock and a key. That's what makes it a system. We've got the neurotransmitters, and we've got the body producing cannabinoids. So we've got two parts, receivers, producing. Interestingly, in addition to this information, we now also know from the studies that Mishula Migeoni did that cannabinoids are endogenous to our body, which means that we are actually producing cannabinoids all the time, keeping ourselves healthy and protecting us. When we ingest additional cannabinoids in any form, we're nourishing boosting, and fortifying our endocannabinoid system so that it can work. That's why cannabis works on so many diverse conditions, is because it's not about putting a medicine to one thing. It's about giving the body the opportunity to do what it does well, which is heal. Our body heals itself, and the cannabinoids make that possible. So there's two types of ECS receptors in our body which operate the different body functions. One is known as CB1, the other is CB2. CB1 is prevalent in the central nervous system, the brain, and it's responsible for controlling seizures and spasms. The other, CB2, works with the peripheral nervous system, covering organs such as the heart, the liver, digestive organs, and all the all-important immune system. It's because of these two differing ECSs that cannabis is able to be so healing to so many different physical and emotional issues. So now that we understand the body's ability to use this medicine, I'm going to go further into explaining cannabinoids, or it's also pronounced cannabinoids, so you'll hear those different pronunciations. So what are cannabinoids or cannabinoids? They are molecules that are unique to the cannabis plant and the human body. There are, in fact, over 80 known cannabinoids in cannabis. Many of you have heard of THC. It's the most famous cannabinoid. It's responsible for the psychoactivity. In other words, it's the molecule that gets people high. The second most famous and increasingly studied and understood cannabinoid is CBD, or cannabidiol. It's a very different sort of molecule than THC. While it's laden with medicinal benefits, it has no psychoactivity. So this is how you can take the medicine without getting high, is by having strains of marijuana that are high in CBD and low in THC. And I'll speak about that a little bit more, but that answers the question of how do I take this medicine without getting stoned. Let's see, so the over 80 cannabinoids in cannabis do a lot of different things, which we're just beginning to learn about. And there are other components in the cannabis plant. There's like 400 components in a cannabis plant, which is why to isolate anything out of this plant is completely stupid and puts... So there's a pill called Marinol that is synthetic isolated THC. That's all it is. It's missing the other 399 components of cannabis. And guess what? People don't like it. And there's side effects. Duh. So, let's see. So this brings me to a discussion of the qualifying conditions for the state of Arizona, according to the AMMA. The conditions are cancer, glaucoma, HIV, AIDS, hepatitis C, ALS, Crohn's disease, agitation of Alzheimer's disease, and chronic or debilitating medical conditions that cause cachexia or wasting, severe and chronic pain, severe nausea, seizures, or spasms, basically, multiple sclerosis. Chronic pain is by far the largest category in most of the legal states, in all the legal states. Probably 90% of people get their card for that. And as Kathy was saying before, it's because a lot of people are in pain, you know, and the largest age group that uses medical marijuana is males 18 to 30 at a rate of 27% of the males. So who goes to war, right? And who's playing football? And who's building houses and falling off of roofs? Young men. So when people get all hyper about it's just young people trying to get stoned, you know what? The young people that want to get stoned don't want a card. They're going to get it from the street. This is about people with serious, debilitating, chronic pain. So don't let anybody make you think that this law is just for helping people get stoned, because that isn't what it's about. The other biggest category is females 51 to 60 years old, with 26.5% of all women in that category. And there's nearly 8,000 people aged 61 to 70 in Arizona that have a card. 1,500 of them, 71 years to 80 years old, 1,500 people. And another 481 and older. So a lot of people are beginning to understand that this is helpful medicine for them. Okay, so if you or anybody you know has cancer, we definitely ought to talk after this because cancer is, as I mentioned earlier, something that can be dealt with, and medical cannabis can really be part of the healing process. So, and of course, we all have heard that cannabis can help people with symptoms of nausea and the other pain and issues from chemotherapy and from the treatments from cancer. So that's a no-brainer right there. Okay. It's also true that cannabis can give you a chance for healing that's different from the conventional medicine, and so we want to look into that. Okay. I'm kind of skipping through some stuff because some of this has already been covered and I want to make it a little quicker for us. Okay, so you can see on YouTube, there's dozens of videos about how to healing from cancer with cannabis and epilepsy. So please do take advantage of that resource list, and some of the sites are just really great overall medical sites like 420insight.com. Very nice site. They list maybe 40 different conditions, and you can click on them and find research articles for each of those types of conditions. So now that you guys get it, how do you get it? So in Arizona and in the legal states, the legal way to get it is from dispensaries. In the world-class dispensaries, like the ones that were represented here today, Giving Tree, Harvest, and 3 or 4 others in the valley, you will find educated, compassionate bud tenders. I did say bud, like a flower. They are caring people who stand behind the counter and help you to decide which medicine will be most effective for you, whatever your condition is. So you don't go in and look at 40 jars and say, I'll take that one. You know, they'll help you to know what's going to really be useful to you. You're going to find kind, competent management and staff. The nicer dispensaries are safe, comfortable, confidential environments. Best dispensaries have beautiful, clean, fresh, tested medicine. And they are also the only legal avenue for obtaining the medicine. The things that they test for are mold, mildew, fungus, pesticides, as well as for the percentages of potency and of these cannabinoids that we've been speaking about. They're going to label the medicine with what the components are, so you have some sort of idea how high the THC is or what the proportion of CBD to THC is. And they also test for some terpenes, which are very little understood at this point, but we do know that there are 6 or 7 of them that are very, very influential in the way the medicine is going